When you hear the word limit, your mind instantly paints a wall, a boundary, something that cannot be crossed. But the truth is, most of those walls never really existed. They were painted in your head brick by brick, by the voices of doubt, by the echoes of failure, by the whispers of people who told you to know your place. And when you believed them, you handed over the keys to your own potential. You decided to live inside an invisible cage, one that was never locked, one that never had real power until you gave it power. We convince ourselves that limits are fixed realities, but look closely. They're often just illusions that we accepted as fact. Think back to moments when you said, "I can't." Where did that come from? Did your body collapse under the weight of effort? Did your mind truly exhaust every possibility? Or did you stop at the first sign of resistance, mistaking difficulty for impossibility? Most people quit not because they can't go further, but because they've trained themselves to believe they shouldn't even try. The mind screams louder than the body, and when you listen to that scream long enough, it becomes your truth. But it isn't the truth. The real truth is that humans are capable of far more than we allow ourselves to believe. Limits bend, stretch, and shatter the moment you stop worshiping them as permanent. What looks impossible today is often the very thing you'll take for granted tomorrow once you push through. Think about the first time you tried to run further than you ever had before. Your chest burned, your legs begged you to stop, and your brain whispered that you'd reached your ceiling. But then somehow you found a second wind. You kept going. And what happened? That new distance became your normal. That's how limits work. They retreat every time you step forward. But here's the catch. Breaking them doesn't happen by accident. It happens when you refuse to accept the illusion. When you stop saying "I can't" and start saying "let's see how far I can go." The difference between the person who stays stuck and the one who breaks through is not luck, not destiny. It's the refusal to treat limits as unchangeable. People who achieve greatness have the same fears, the same doubts, the same voices in their heads. The only difference is they see the wall and decide to push anyway. And maybe you've been told all your life where your ceiling is. Maybe you've been told you're too short, too weak, too old, too young, too inexperienced, too different. Maybe people tried to measure your worth with their own ruler. But here's the thing. They don't get to decide how far you can go. That is your decision alone. Every great story, every breakthrough, every triumph we admire comes from someone who ignored the limits that others tried to tattoo on their skin. They tore up the script and rewrote their role in the story. I'm not here to tell you it's easy. Breaking limits will always demand something from you. It will demand patience when everything in you wants to give up. It will demand resilience when failure slaps you in the face. It will demand belief when every external sign tells you belief is foolish. But that demand is not a punishment. It's a gift. Because what you get on the other side of that wall is not just achievement, it's transformation. You don't just accomplish something new, you become someone new. The version of you that doubted, that hesitated, that believed in limits. That version dies, and a stronger one is born in its place. So ask yourself, what limits have you built in your mind? What stories are you telling yourself about what you can and cannot do? Are they real or are they fears dressed up as facts? The only way you'll ever know is by testing them. And testing them means risking failure, risking discomfort, risking rejection. But here's the truth. If you never test your limits, you'll live inside a cage of your own making, staring at walls that aren't even there. Life isn't about staying safe behind imaginary boundaries. Life is about stepping into the unknown, again and again, until you realize the unknown was never something to fear. It was always the path to who you could become. Every time you challenge a limit, you write proof into your own story that you are more than you thought, more than they told you, more than fear allowed you to believe. And the more proof you collect, the freer you become. So don't settle for the illusions in your head. Don't mistake fear for truth. Don't mistake comfort for safety. Limits will always try to whisper to you, telling you to stop, telling you to shrink, telling you that this is as far as you can go. But remember this, those whispers are lies. The only voice that matters is the one that says, I can take one more step. And if you keep taking one more step again and again, you'll eventually turn around and realize the wall you thought was unbreakable is nothing but dust behind you. That's what breaking your limits means. Not defying reality, but defying the illusion that you're powerless. You're not. You never were failure. It's the word most people run from. It carries weight, it carries shame, it carries the sting of rejection and the heaviness of disappointment. But what if I told you that failure is not the end of the road, it is the road itself? What if every misstep, every rejection letter, every broken plan wasn't a dead end, but a signpost pointing you forward? Most people misunderstand failure. They see it as evidence that they aren't good enough. They treat it like proof that their limits are permanent. But failure isn't proof of weakness, it's proof that you're trying to break through the very edges of your limits. Think about it. No one fails by standing still. No one fails by playing safe in the shadows of comfort. You only fail when you step out into unknown territory, when you stretch yourself into something unfamiliar, when you risk going beyond what you already know you can do. Failure in its rawest form is a signal that you've dared to move. That's why failure is never the enemy. The true enemy is standing still. The true enemy is never even attempting the leap because you're afraid of what might happen if you fall. Every great person you admire, every story of triumph you hold close, is built on a mountain of failures that nobody claps for. Actors who couldn't book roles, athletes who lost game after game, entrepreneurs who poured their savings into ideas that collapsed. But those failures weren't tombstones. They were bricks. Bricks that built the foundation of strength, resilience, and clarity that success eventually stood on. You don't see the bricks because you only see the house standing tall. But without those failures, the house would crumble instantly. Failure sharpens you. It teaches you things comfort never can. Success makes you smile, but failure makes you grow. When you fail, you learn what doesn't work. You learn how to adjust, how to adapt, how to rise again with more wisdom than before. Failure has this incredible way of stripping away your illusions, forcing you to face yourself honestly. It asks you, how badly do you want this? Do you want it enough to get up again after being knocked down? Do you want it enough to push through the embarrassment, the doubt, the laughter of others? If the answer is yes, then every failure becomes fuel. Most people don't fail because they lack talent or ability. They fail because they give failure too much meaning. They treat it like a scarlet letter, a mark of shame. But failure doesn't define you unless you let it. It doesn't write your story unless you put down the pen and stop writing. In fact, the more you fail, the closer you often are to breaking through. Because failure means you're experimenting, you're risking, you're daring. And the truth is, nobody stumbles into greatness without tripping over 1,000 failures first. Let me ask you, would you rather fail 100 times chasing something extraordinary, or succeed once at something ordinary you never cared about? Too many people choose the safe success. They choose the life that guarantees no heartbreak, no rejection, no pain. But in doing so, they guarantee something else: no growth, no discovery, no greatness. Failure is the price you pay for a life that means something, and it's a price worth paying every single time. When you look back years from now, you won't regret the failures. You'll regret the moments you didn't try. You'll regret the safe choices that kept you small. You'll regret believing that failure was a stop sign instead of a stepping stone. Failure will hurt, yes, it always will. But it won't destroy you unless you hand it that power. If anything, it will carve you into someone who can withstand storms you once thought would break you. So the next time you fail, don't shrink. Don't hide. Don't pretend it didn't happen. Stand in it, own it. Ask yourself what it taught you, what it revealed, how it pushed you closer to your edge. And then, move forward. That's the only way failure becomes what it was always meant to be. A teacher, a guide, a pathway. Limits don't crumble when you win once. Limits crumble when you fail repeatedly, each time learning, adjusting, refusing to quit. Failure is not the end of the path, it is the path. And if you dare to walk it long enough, if you dare to stumble, fall, and rise again, you'll one day look back and realize that failure didn't hold you back at all. It carried you forward. From the moment you take your first breath, the world begins to tell you who you are. It tells you what you should look like, what you should want, how you should act, and most importantly, how far you're allowed to go. The labels start early: too small, too slow, too quiet, too different. And slowly, without even realizing it, you begin to carry those labels as though they're truths carved into stone. You start to measure your worth through someone else's eyes. You start to live inside the expectations that were handed to you, instead of creating your own. And that right there is where most people's limits are born. Not from reality, but from the weight of the world's opinions. The truth is, expectations are chains disguised as guidance. When people tell you to be realistic, what they're really saying is, don't make me uncomfortable by reaching higher than I believe is possible. When they tell you to know your place, they're projecting their own fears onto you. And if you let those voices dominate your choices, you'll spend your life living under ceilings that were never yours in the first place. The scariest part? You'll start to forget they don't belong to you. You'll think they're your limits when in fact they're just cages the world built around you. Every breakthrough in history happened because someone dared to silence those voices. Every artist who created something new, every innovator who changed the way we live, every underdog who rose above the odds, they all heard the same doubts, the same laughter, the same dismissals. And yet they pressed forward, not because the world believed in them, but because they chose to believe in themselves louder than the world could doubt them. That's the key. You can't wait for the crowd to cheer you on before you act. You can't wait for approval before you move. If you do, you'll wait forever. There will always be people who can't see your vision. There will always be people who think your dreams are too big, too unrealistic, too far out of reach. But ask yourself this: why should their imagination define the size of your life? Why should their fear dictate your courage? Why should their doubts become your reality? The answer is simple: it shouldn't. The only expectations you are bound to honor are the ones you set for yourself. And yes, silencing the world's expectations is hard. It means you will be misunderstood. It means you will be doubted, sometimes by the people closest to you. It means you might walk a path where applause is rare and judgment is constant. But understand this: it is better to walk alone toward a life that's truly yours than to walk with a crowd toward a life that never belonged to you. Approval may feel good, but freedom feels better. Think of it like this. Imagine living your entire life in a costume that doesn't fit. Maybe it keeps you hidden. Maybe it makes people clap. Maybe it earns you acceptance. But every day you feel the squeeze of pretending. That's what living under the world's expectations feels like. And breaking your limits begins with tearing off that costume, even if people don't like what they see underneath. Because what's underneath is the real you, the one capable of things far greater than their limited vision ever imagined. The day you stop living for their applause, you begin living for your purpose. And when you live for your purpose, something extraordinary happens. The voices of doubt start to fade because they no longer matter. The labels start to peel off because you no longer wear them. The weight of expectations begins to lift, and for the first time, you feel what it's like to run without chains. That freedom doesn't just break limits, it makes them irrelevant. So the next time someone tells you who you are, pause before you believe them. Ask yourself, do they really know? Or are they just projecting their own limits onto me? The truth is, nobody else can define you. Nobody else can decide how far you can go. That decision has always been yours. And the moment you take it back, the moment you stop letting the world dictate your worth, you'll discover that the only real expectation that matters is the one you choose for yourself. When you silence the world's expectations, you create space for your own voice to grow louder. And that voice, the one that whispers your dreams in the quiet hours of the night, the one that dares to believe you're meant for more, that voice is the one that knows your truth. Listen to it, trust it, follow it, because in the end, the world will always have opinions, but only you have the power to decide which ones become your reality. That's how you break your limits, not by proving them wrong, but by proving yourself right. Comfort is seductive. It wraps itself around you like a warm blanket, whispering that you've done enough, that you've come far enough, that this is where you should stay. And for a moment it feels good, safe, familiar. But what you don't realize is that comfort is also a trap. It's a soft prison that convinces you the walls are protecting you, when in reality they're keeping you from ever stepping into who you could become. Every person who has ever broken their limits has had to step out of that comfort zone and into discomfort. Not once, not twice, but again and again, until discomfort no longer felt like the enemy. It felt like the path. The truth is, growth doesn't happen where it's easy. Growth happens in the places that stretch you, in the challenges that scare you, in the moments where you want to quit but choose not to. Think about the gym. If you lift the same weight over and over, day after day, your muscles never grow. Why? Because they're not being challenged. They've adapted. They're comfortable. The only way they grow stronger is by increasing the weight. by forcing the muscle to break and rebuild. Life works exactly the same way. If you keep lifting the same weights in your daily choices, doing the same things, thinking the same thoughts, staying in the same patterns, you will never grow stronger. You'll stay exactly where you are. Discomfort is proof that you're in new territory. It's proof that you're expanding, stretching, reaching beyond what you've already mastered. And yet most people spend their entire lives running from it. They choose jobs that keep them safe, routines that keep them predictable, relationships that keep them unchallenged. They avoid risk, avoid failure, avoid anything that could shake the fragile sense of security they've built. But security without growth is just stagnation, and stagnation kills dreams faster than failure ever could. Think about the times in your life when you truly changed. Was it during the easy seasons? Or was it when life pushed you to the edge, when you were forced to dig deeper than you thought you could? Growth is always born in struggle. It's forged in discomfort. The heartbreaks, the rejections, the setbacks. Those are the fires that shape you. They burn away weakness, excuses, and illusions, leaving behind the strongest version of yourself. Without discomfort, you never discover that version. But here's the thing. Discomfort doesn't always have to come from crisis. You can choose it. You can decide to place yourself in situations that scare you, challenge you, stretch you. You can choose to speak when it's easier to stay silent. You can choose to try when it's easier to sit back. You can choose to leap when it's safer to stay still. Every time you do, you step into the arena where growth happens. And in that arena, limits don't stand a chance. Most people misunderstand courage. They think courage is the absence of fear, but real courage is feeling the fear, stepping into the discomfort and doing it anyway. Courage isn't comfortable, it never is. But it's the only way forward. And the more you face discomfort, the more you build a tolerance for it. What once felt terrifying eventually feels normal. The stage that once made your hand shake becomes your second home. The challenge that once felt impossible becomes just another step. That's how growth works. It moves the line of what you once thought was unbearable. So if you want to break your limits, stop running from discomfort. Start chasing it. Seek out the challenges that make your heart race. Walk into the situations that feel bigger than you, because in those very moments you'll find the edges of your limits and you'll push them further back. Every time you lean into discomfort, you gain something the comfortable will never have: resilience. And resilience is the foundation of greatness. Yes, it will hurt. Yes, it will be uncomfortable. Yes, there will be moments where you question why you're even trying. But remember, pain is temporary. Discomfort is temporary. The strength you gain, the growth you achieve, the limits you shatter, that stays with you forever. That becomes who you are. So don't let comfort rob you of your potential. Don't let safety convince you that you're living. Living begins when you embrace discomfort, when you choose the harder path, when you stop asking, "What if I fail?" and start asking, "Now what if I grow?" Because every time you choose discomfort over comfort, you choose growth over stagnation, strength over weakness, freedom over fear. Breaking your limits isn't about finding the easiest way forward. It's about willingly stepping into the fire of discomfort and trusting that you'll come out stronger on the other side. And you will. Because discomfort isn't the enemy. It's the proof that you're on the right path. Talent. It's the word people love to throw around when they see someone succeed. They look at the artist on stage, the athlete breaking records, the leader building empires, and they say, "They're so talented." As if talent was the magic key that opened every door. As if talent alone could carry someone past every obstacle, every hardship, every doubt. But here's the truth. Talent might get you started, but it's courage that carries you through. Courage is the force that breaks limits, not talent. You see, talent is fragile. It shines in moments of ease, but it crumbles the second the ground shakes. Talent can make you impressive, but it cannot make you unstoppable. How many gifted people do you know who never lived up to their potential? How many brilliant minds, skilled hands, or natural prodigies faded away because when it mattered most, they didn't have the courage to keep going? Talent may give you the ability, but courage gives you the will. And when it comes to breaking your limits, will always beats ability. Courage is not glamorous. It doesn't come with applause or recognition. Courage is quiet. It happens in the dark, in the moments when no one is watching, when you're standing face to face with failure, fear, and rejection. Courage is choosing to rise when everything in you wants to stay down. It's saying yes when the safe answer is no. It's trying one more time when logic tells you to quit. That's what courage is. The choice to keep moving when the world gives you every reason to stop. Limits don't fall because you're talented. They fall because you're brave enough to test them. Brave enough to stand up after you've been knocked down. Brave enough to enter the arena even when you're not ready. Even when you're scared, even when the odds say you're going to lose. People often think courage means being fearless. That's a lie. Courage is feeling the fear, letting it crawl under your skin, letting it scream in your head, and then walking forward anyway. Without fear, there is no courage. Without risk, there is no breakthrough. Think of the times in your life where you broke through a barrier, no matter how small. Was it because you were the most talented in the room? Or was it because you dared when others hesitated? Was it because you had natural skill? Or was it because you found the guts to act when it would have been easier to hide? Again and again, history proves it. Talent may open doors, but courage is what walks you through them. Courage doesn't guarantee you'll win every time. You will still fail. You will still stumble. You will still face days where nothing works out the way you planned. But courage guarantees that failure will never be final. Courage keeps you in the game long enough to learn, to grow, to adapt, to rise. Talent says, I can do this. Courage says, even if I can't yet, I'll keep going until I can. And that mindset, that relentless drive, is what shatters limits. The beautiful thing about courage is that it's not reserved for the special few. It's not something you're born with like a gift. Courage is a choice available to anyone, at any moment, in any situation. It's built in the small decisions, the choice to speak up when it's uncomfortable, to take action when it's uncertain, to keep moving when it's painful. Every time you choose courage, you strengthen it. And with every ounce of courage gained, another limit begins to fall. So don't envy the talented. Don't wish you had their gift. Talent can shine today and vanish tomorrow, but courage, it's forever. Courage doesn't depend on luck or genetics or circumstances. Courage depends only on you. And when you decide to be courageous, no limit can hold you. Breaking your limits is not about being the most talented in the room. It's about being the one who refuses to leave the room. It's about being the one who stays when others quit, the one who keeps showing up when it's hard, the one who faces fear and says, not today. That is the power of courage. It doesn't just move you forward, it transforms you. Because once you've faced fear and acted anyway, you're no longer the same person you were. You're stronger, you're braver, you're limitless. So if you want to break your limits, stop asking yourself if you're talented enough. Start asking yourself if you're brave enough to fail, brave enough to stand alone, brave enough to risk looking foolish, brave enough to keep moving forward no matter how many times you fall. Talent may set the stage, but courage is what writes the story. And your story, the one where you break your limits, will never be written without it. When people talk about legacy, they often imagine statues, awards, or names etched into history books. But your legacy isn't about trophies collecting dust on a shelf. It isn't about what people say when you're gone. Your legacy is built right now, in the choices you make, in the limits you dare to break. Because the truth is, nothing meaningful, nothing lasting, is ever built inside the boundaries of comfort. Legacy begins the moment you step beyond your limits. Think about it. When you look back at your life years from now, what moments will stand out? It won't be the times you played it safe. It won't be the nights you stayed in your comfort zone, doing what was expected of you. What you'll remember are the times you took the risk, the times you dared to leap, the times you pushed so hard against your limits that you didn't know if you would break or break through. And when you did, those moments became more than memories. They became proof. Proof that you were capable of more. Proof that you refused to settle. Proof that you lived. The thing about limits is that they don't just hold back your achievements, they hold back your story. Nobody remembers the person who stayed in the middle, who blended in, who never reached beyond what was easy. People remember those who stepped out, those who fought, those who showed courage where others chose fear, and that doesn't require fame or fortune. Legacy is not about being known by the world. It's about being remembered by the people whose lives you touched, whose hearts you inspired, whose paths you lit by showing them what's possible. And that happens only when you break your limits. Because here's the raw truth: if you don't push yourself beyond your limits, your story ends where it began. You live inside the same walls, walk the same paths, breathe the same air until the end. Safe, yes. Predictable, yes. But forgettable. And deep down, you know you weren't born to be forgettable. You weren't put here just to exist. You were put here to leave a mark, however small or large. And that mark only comes when you step into the unknown. When you risk failure. When you embrace the uncomfortable. Every time you break a limit, you write a new chapter in your story. The first time you conquer a fear. The first time you rise after failing. The first time you choose courage over comfort. Those become turning points. They shape the narrative of who you are and who you are becoming. And over time, those turning points string together into something much bigger, your legacy. A legacy not of perfection, but of persistence. Not of talent, but of courage. Not of ease, but of resilience. And don't underestimate how powerful that is. Because when you break your limits, you don't just inspire yourself. You inspire others. People are watching you, whether you realize it or not. Friends, family, even strangers. They see you stumble and get back up. They see you fight for your dream despite the odds. And in seeing you break your limits, they begin to believe they can break theirs. That's legacy. Legacy is not about being flawless. It's about showing what's possible when you refuse to quit. So ask yourself, what kind of story do you want to leave behind? Do you want to be remembered as the person who stayed safe, who never dared, who lived within the lines? Or do you want to be remembered as the one who reached, who fought, who risked, who broke their limits again and again? Because the choice is yours. Your legacy is not waiting for you at the end. It's being written right now. With every decision you make, every step you take, every limit you shatter, one day, when your time is up, when the curtain falls, the question won't be how comfortable your life was. The question will be, did you live fully? Did you fight for your dreams? Did you break through the limits that once scared you? Did you create a story worth remembering? And the answer to those questions will not be found in the easy days. It will be found in the hard days. The days you could have quit but didn't. The days you could have retreated but pushed forward. The days you decided to break your limits instead of bowing to them. That's where legacy begins. Beyond the edges of your fear. Beyond the boundaries of your comfort. Beyond the walls you thought would always hold you back. Out there, in the unknown, in the discomfort, in the fight. That's where your story comes alive. That's where you discover not only what you can achieve, but who you truly are. And that version of you, the one who chose courage over fear, resilience over defeat, growth over comfort, that version of you is the legacy you leave behind. So don't wait for tomorrow. Don't wait for permission. Don't wait for the perfect moment to begin. Your legacy starts the second you decide to break your limits. And once you do, the story you write won't just be about a life lived, it will be about a life that mattered.